and welcome back once again to our podcast.
This is The Next Session, an advice podcast for GMs hoping to do something.
Maybe GM. maybe be a game master.
An advice podcast for game masters seeking help with their next game session.
So, I'm Adam Johns.
And I'm Alyssa Johns.
And we're here to offer you that advice.
Yeah. From hopefully it's helping.
It's helpful advice.
Yeah. Hopefully that somebody is listening and going, oh, that's a great idea.
Not just junk advice.
Garbage.
Garbage.
It's garbage.
It's garbage advice.
It's garbage advice.
No. This is premium. This is the advice behind a paywall, but it's free for you. That's the kind of advice.
We're top shelf.
Top shelf.
Behind all the other ones.
This is masterclass advice.
You have to go through all the other podcasts to find it.
It's top shelf, but it's buried in the back.
And it's buried with a layer of dust on it. Oh, all right. So we're still not live yet, so it doesn't matter. No one's capable of listening right now anyway.
I mean, eventually this will.
Future you are listening.
Wow.
Thank you, future you.
You're in the future. I hope it's amazing there.
Yes. So this is still a question from Reddit. This is our segment called Next Session Help.
Oh, awesome.
So we're going to read the question and hopefully discuss and answer and come up with some good ideas about what this person could do on their next session.
I like it. Let's do it.
All right. This question comes from the Great Hambriento.
Oh, man. The Great
Hambriento. It's a fantastic name.
It's sounds like a sandwich.
It does. Or I was imagining some sort of gnome wizard.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty good, too. I am the Great Hambriento.
Yes. Ooh, cower before me.
Yeah.
So they start off by saying this is a homebrew campaign in Waterdeep. They have 3 level 4 characters. The characters joined a huge monopolistic company full of heroes that gets rid of problems for a quote-unquote small fee. They get about 3 to 4 assignments a week, and they don't know it yet, but the overwhelmingly good leader of the company is secretly funding crime so that more people have to buy their services. His ultimate goal is getting the richest people in Waterdeep to invest in 24/7 security through the company. They've only done a couple of missions, but discovered a peculiar purple bag. Purple is my favorite. A peculiar purple bag filled with coins at both crime scenes, and the enemies have very nice new shiny weapons. They get the sense that someone is paying for these crimes, but have no idea who. What are some more encounters I can build for them before the story all ties together?
Ooh, this is interesting. So this has some of the great makings of long-term campaigns. We like to call this a Zordon character.
Zordon?
Yeah, it's from the old Power Rangers. Zordon was the head that would send them on missions, right?
Right.
It was like, oh, there's a bad thing that's going on. Go over there and take care of it. And then they would come back to Zordon at the end. Zordon would be like, great job on your mission.
So he's Bosley?
Yeah, it's Bosley, exactly.
And the Power Rangers are Charlie's Angels?
Yes.
Why didn't I watch more Power Rangers? I would have if it was
Charlie's Angels.
Charlie's Angels.
So this is the same kind of thing where there is very clearly an organization that's there and they send them out on missions. And then, of course, this has then this greater arcing plot line that kind of comes together.
Oh, my gosh. You know what it is? It's Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, I guess it sort of is Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. So, yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is great because then you can do a bunch of loosely connected kind of small plot lines that then are tied together in this greater way, right? So for now, let's just come up with some small plot lines.
Well, I was thinking they could. I mean, obviously they've been finding these purple this purple bag filled with coins, and the enemies have shiny new weapons, and the characters suspect that someone is funding for the crimes, but they don't know who. So this is their opportunity to come up with a rival fake lead for them to start investigating. So the quote unquote good person of this company can say, we figured out who's funding the crime, and it's this rival thieves guild, or it's this rival
Oh, it's like the
hate
ultimate projection where he says, "This other group has been funding crime. Go and stop them."
Yeah, so lead them down this other rabbit hole.
Like they're competitors.
Yeah, exactly.
In the service industry.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe they have a small crime that is planted with the symbol of this other group. And
you know what would make more sense is if the leader is actually framing corruption in the guard.
And what guard?
Well, so he wants to. The goal is to get Waterdeep to invest in security through the company. But I imagine Waterdeep has some kind of guard already, or some kind of like police force, right?
Yeah, probably.
So what would make the most sense here would be that the leader of this company starts setting up the idea that someone in the police force, or maybe very deep, the whole police force, is highly corrupted.
Ooh,
and then is trying to get somebody high up to basically disband the police force so that they'll hire
so they're the new security team. That's good. So how would you do that?
I think the very first thing I would do I would say that the purple bag was already a plant. Mm-hmm. And that the purple bag ties back to like the captain of the guard somehow, or the commander of the guard.
Maybe they get issued these purple bags.
Right.
Okay.
So the purple bags are from the guards, or maybe they're only from the higher ups. Like the purple bags are the way that higher ups pay for, salary or something.
Or get their salary.
Yeah, how they get their salary. And then I would use that to kind of tie back. These purple bags are really unique. They are manufactured purely from this thing.
In my head, I cannot help but think they're Crown Royal bags.
I know, that's what I was picturing too.
That's the first thing
it's just a Crown Royal bag.
It's a Crown Royal bag that you stick all your marbles in and you take to school, and you have no idea why the teachers are upset at you.
Crown Royal bags are also incredibly popular for people to hold dice in. And I cannot help but feel like the game master in this sense was like, you find something, it's a purple bag, and it's like looking right down at his dice bag.
Crown Royal does make some pretty good bags.
Yeah. That's pretty true. So that would probably be a fun way to go. But it also seems like part of what they're looking for is some more opportunity to here's some small missions. Here's some really important things that you need to take care of before you can invest in this.
Yeah, they say, what are some more encounters I can build for them before the story all ties together? So these are little other missions they can do before the big reveal. Okay,
so in that case, I might not make the purple bags all that unique. I might say, you find a purple bag, it's a purple bag. It maybe seems unusual, but there's you can go to any shop in the city and find purple bags or whatever. So there's nothing really to that. And I would let that be a clue that has to lead further. You need more clues before you can do anything with it. And the same thing is true for shiny new weapons. They're shiny new weapons, but there's no markings on them that indicate any...
Well, there's no markings on them because they're new.
Yeah. Wah, wah. I meant there's no like stamp of manufacturer or anything like that would indicate like, oh, these weapons came from a specific person. You've got nothing to go on.
Can you imagine if, weapons were like clothing?
It was like brand. I got a Gucci sword.
Yeah. This is my Nike shield. Yeah. It's got the swoosh on it, so it'll protect me more.
Yeah.
Hold on, I have to pump it up.
Yeah. Pump up my shield.
People would start branding, have knockoff brand.
Yeah. I want a Reebok crossbow.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Apparently, I only know shoe brands. I don't know any other fancy brands.
Louis Vuitton.
I wanted a Louis Vuitton full plate mail.
I want a Louis Vuitton bracer.
Yeah, there you go.
And then you would, if you hit it into your enemy, it stamps it into their skin.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, oh, no, because that would make them look like Louis Vuitton brand, and that's not good.
So
there's no brand on their weapons.
I lost my chain.
Yeah, it was my fault. There's no brand on their weapons.
There's no brand on their weapons.
Markings.
There's and so you need some more clues, right? So you make it very, very clear to the players. There's not much to go on here, and I would like state it directly to the players, because they may try to investigate this further with the amount of clues that they have.
It's always really hard when you say there's nothing to go off of. What do you do? Because then the players go, I don't know what the heck to do.
You can't say what do you do. In this case, you say there's nothing to go off of. You're just going to have to hope that you can find some more clues. Maybe it's tied back to some of these other crimes. So you're just going to have to investigate some more crimes to find some more clues until you get something more definitive that you can go off of. And you could make that longer. It doesn't have to be just a statement from you. You could say, yeah, take the bag, go to a shopkeep, see whether or not there's anything unique. And the shopkeep can go like, oh, you can get this kind of bag anywhere in the city. And you can be like, and then you can state very directly to the players, it seems like this is a dead end. You're going to need more clues before you can do anything with this. So then you can send them on a couple more missions and pick up more clues along the way. So let's see, what are some sort of fun missions? The idea here is that somebody is hiring the services of these people, right? So it's not like, a fire is happening, go put out a fire. Because somebody would have to like come to them and say, hey, I want to hire you to do these services.
I think I would pull from some of my favorite crime movies. I would pull this is not my favorite crime movie. But I would probably pull an Ocean's 12 here. And there's a person who has a very famous artifact that they keep in their house, and they never leave their house, and the criminals got in, and how did they do it? Kind of go down.
Oh, okay. But you're on the investigator side.
Yeah,
so
you're on
criminals,
the investigator side.
The criminals got in, they stole this famous artifact, and now you need to get it back.
Right. How did they do it, kind of a thing. And you could loop it back into it being a quote-unquote guard who did it by having, the only people who knew the code were the guards. Now so we're more suspicious about the guards, kind of a thing.
Some kind of inside job or whatever, yeah. That's not bad. I like that. You could also have... I like doing... I like plot lines where someone stole something, which is really fun, and you have to get it back. Those are really interesting. But frankly, like, it's a city, and you could get into some darker stuff. Someone killed someone else, and you have to go do something. There's an interesting question here about, like, how far is this company leader willing to go?
That's true. Are these petty crimes? Are these big crimes? Is this like maybe they're poisoning everybody?
Yeah. Someone introduced a bunch of poison to some food, and a bunch of people got very sick or died. Very interesting opportunity there. In my mind, this guy is really not good. He is willing to kill to make his company more successful and make more money for it, and really does not care who he hurts along the way. So in that case, I think you could totally have, like, I think his crimes are escalating because he's demonstrating that the police are inept and unable to deal with the crimes, or the guard or whatever they're called. So I think that he would like have somebody who was killed and the guard aren't doing anything about it. Like, they've hit all dead ends, and so the players need to come in and investigate some more. And it's the rest of the family, like somebody high up, maybe a wealthy person, their family member was killed.
Maybe there's a kidnapping.
Yeah. Maybe it was like a break-in and somebody was killed in the process. But what's unusual about it is nothing was stolen.
Okay, I could see that. I was thinking a kidnapping of a higher-up's, like, family member or something, and like as a bigger encounter.
Sure, I could see that too. And you have to chase after. You have to figure out where the kidnappers are. You could even do the whole, like, they call a ransom.
Oh yeah.
Kidnapping and ransom. Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting.
With the purple bags.
It could be the people who were hired to do the ransom, like, have these purple bags, these same purple bags, which would be pretty interesting. I think you could start tying this in with something like a weapons ring, like somebody is distributing weapons or is selling illegal weapons. I've always wondered about this in the Dungeons and Dragons world. Like, it seems like anybody can just buy a sword or buy a crossbow.
Right. Yeah, there's no oversight.
I sometimes have like gunslingers in some of my D&D worlds where they have firearms, and I have found it very interesting to make firearms illegal.
Yeah.
But like flat out illegal. Like no one's allowed to have firearms. But like there's this black market trade on firearms, which is pretty interesting.
I've never had guns in my game. I just stay away from it completely. It's not a world that I know very well, and it's just something that feels easier just to go back to kind of Lord of the Rings times.
Sure.
There's no guns. There's magic missile. You could argue that's kind of a gun in a way. My staff, but yeah, I've always shied away from having guns in the games. I've never had a character or had a player come to me and say, "I'm going to be a gunslinger," because yeah, I've never had to deal with that. So I'm not sure how I would handle DMing for a character or GMing for a character who is a gunslinger.
Well, 5th edition actually has gunslingers in the expanded material.
Right. Yeah.
So they have a bunch of mechanics and stuff that are put together specifically for gunslingers, which can be really helpful for helping you like define that, right?
Yeah. I wonder if maybe my next character should be a gunslinger because it's out of my comfort zone. And that would be an interesting way to kind of figure out how I fit with that character.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. Any other ideas, or do we answer this question?
No, I think this is good. I really enjoy the Great Hambriento's plot. I think this is a really fun way to get them into different encounters around the city. And just what I would do is I would come up with 3 or 4 buildings in the city that are interesting to me that I kind of want to flush out more, and then figure out what kind of a crime or encounter could happen there, and then send them that direction.
It's an interesting strategy.
Yeah, because then you get to work together to kind of figure out what this world looks like. And maybe this is where we talked about the rumor system. Maybe this is where that could come into play to flush out the world a little bit more. But ultimately, I think this is a great idea. I think that having the person at the top be corrupt it's good, but it's a little expected in some ways. So
you think the players are going to see it
they
coming?
they might see it coming. So if you really want to trick them, give them a false lead here.
That's where the lead with the guard or something like that.
Yeah, the lead with the guards, or the lead with with a rival company, or maybe it's an assistant who give them something else to go after for a little bit, so there's a bigger whoa reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really hope that this answers the Great Hambriento's question. So, do you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's do the next one.
Okay, the next one is from Fizzban90.
Fizzban.
Fizzban says, "Hey, my local senior center has approved me to volunteer to do a D&D group. What is a good campaign or system to run for them?"
A senior center.
I really enjoy this. I used to work at a retirement center as a waitress. My very first job, and I used to love, like, you would get close to some of the people who were residents there, and I used to enjoy going to work and talking to some of them. I love this idea. I think senior centers should definitely have Dungeons and Dragons groups or role playing groups.
So, but what system do you use for that?
There's a lot of assumptions here.
There are a lot of assumptions I have to make.
You really have to know the level of your players.
Yeah, so the thought processes that are going through my mind are there are 2 things that I want to consider. The first one is the complexity of the game, obviously. And that has a lot to do with, are the players that are going to be playing at your table going to be willing to withstand the complexity that is like a system like Dungeons and Dragons, or even more so like Pathfinder or something like that has a lot of depth to it. Are they going to have the patience to learn those things? Or is that always going to be too overwhelming, and they will not really have the motivation to engage enough in the activity to then go learn those particular aspects of the rules? Which is definitely a concern that you want to have with a player audience like this. The second thing that I would want to consider is a fantasy setting the right kind of setting?
Right.
Because the fantasy setting is meaningful to us when we grew up in a generation where the Lord of the Rings came out, Lord of the Rings movies came out, and where we're highly tied into a lot of fantasy novels and a lot of fantasy books, and that might not be true for an older generation. They may not be necessarily as brought into fantasy as a genre. Even though obviously the Lord of the Rings books came out longer ago, and there's lots of other fantasy and things like that have happened, but that it just wasn't as popular at the time. In the 40s and 50s, fantasy was not the same kind of popularity that it is now. Mm-hmm. So just something to consider, that it's possible that something more like Fiasco or Gumshoe, where it's a different kind of settings. Gumshoe is a private detective setting where you do investigations as a private detective agency. It's got a very 1920s kind of feel to it.
Noir.
Noir kind of feel. And that might be really fun. Or a Fiasco. Fiasco is actually a game masterless game. Although you really could do it with a person who's sort of facilitating and leading everybody through the activity, where it's all about relationships between people and just role playing out relationships.
Didn't we play Fiasco a little bit?
We did. We did it wrong. Oh. We didn't do it the right way. We sort of flubbed a lot of the rules, and then later on, Adam and I figured out that we were not playing it correctly.
Well, I do remember playing it a little bit though, and although apparently we played it wrong, I remember really enjoying role playing out little scenes that would happen, and then we would kind of zoom out and go to the next scene.
Yeah, and I think that kind of thing is really fun. I also think if they are up for world creation, I really like Microscope. Which is a small, also sort of GM-less game, but that you could play with somebody really facilitating it, that is more about creating a timeline. And so you create a universe timeline. You say, here's the start of the universe, here's the end of the universe, what happens in between. And you can zoom in and out of different areas. So you can say, here's the planet Earth, what happens in the timeline of the planet Earth. Here's the continent of North America, what happens in the continent of North America, or whatever kind of area or timeline you want to zoom into. And then you get all the way down into oh, awesome, there's a war, let's talk about what happens in this war. Who are the leaders, who are the point people in this war? Oh, there's a general, let's get down into the general. And then you get all the way down finally into enacting scenes.
Yeah, I would worry that certain people might not be able to follow along with that line of thinking, because I know me, I am a very visual person. So I have a harder time visualizing in my head all of that stuff to narrow it all the way down. I could see going with something that's more visual. I could see why D&D might be a good system, so that they have their minis and so that they have their maps, and they can you might make characters for them and make spell cards for them. Here's the spell, 4E. Here's the things you can do. Here's the things you can do on your turn, and just make it a little bit more limited, so that they don't have to. If they have a hard time with, they don't have to broaden their horizons that way.
I'll also mention a couple of sort of lower barrier games. There's No Thank You Evil, which is designed for kids, but it also has a real low barrier to entry for getting in and learning the game. And especially if you could get older adults to suspend, to be a little goofy, or to be willing to be imaginative. No Thank You Evil could be a great platform for that. And I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention that Game to Grow has created a role-playing game system that is still in the process of being released, called Critical Core, which is designed to be introduced to new players and game masters, so that you can jump right in and start playing much more quickly and easily than with other games, and with outcomes related to social skill advancement. So that may also be a good way to go. It has some of the same things that you might do for your 5th edition game, where it has pre-made characters and simple mechanics and cards to help you with spells and abilities.
Yeah.
But you could totally do that with a 5th edition game, getting your own cards or buying the cards that can come along with 5th edition that they sell at the game store, and making up pre-made characters and just sort of lowering the barrier to entry for the players at the table so that they can jump in and start playing really quickly and don't necessarily need to know all the mechanics or need to know all the pieces in order to be, having the fun of the game.
I definitely think Critical Core would be a good one, especially, and we can cut this if I'm not allowed to mention, but especially because they have sections that make it harder and make it easier.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say, these players need a little bit more of a challenge here, or these players need it easier right now, and you have the option, and it's laid out very nicely. This is how I can do this to help my players.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I do think that we've talked about this a bit at Game to Grow, but that role-playing games just have so much potential for seniors, for people who are getting older in age, and where mental activities are so much more important for maintaining that, and especially for people who are retired and don't necessarily have the consistency of other activities that are keeping them engaged or mentally challenged. Role-playing games have all of this potential and opportunity to challenge your mental faculties, cause you to have to imagine things and problem solve and roll dice and add numbers. Like, there's lots of really simple parts of role-playing games that are just great for, as you get up there in the years, for keeping your brain sharp.
I love the idea of having a role-playing game with a group of senior citizens and making the puzzles be like Sudoku puzzles, like something they already understand how this works. But you have to solve the Sudoku puzzle as a team in the next 3 minutes to open the door. These are runes. They're on the wall, and you have to figure. And then
you could hand everybody a piece of paper with a quarter of the Sudoku. Oh. And then they have to hold them up next to each other so that they can.
That's good.
They can solve them together. That'd be pretty fun.
All right. Well, I hope that answers Fizzban 90's questions. I think that's fantastic that you're volunteering to do this group. Obviously, please be safe when you go about it. Seniors are more prone to the current pandemic, so obviously.
Oh yeah, keep yourself safe.
Yes, keep yourself safe, keep them safe, and thank you for the work you're doing, Fizzban 90.
Yeah, it really means a lot. I appreciate contributing to people's lives in such a positive way.
Yeah. Hey, how about we go to a break?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do a break.
Break time.
And we're back.
All right, let's jump into our Ask a GM. This is the same kind of question, but more vague, more general. So, hey, Adam.
Yeah.
How do you make a villain players will hate?
Ooh, that's fun to do.
This comes from Ultra Empoleon.
Empoleon?
Oh, Empoleon. Ultra Empoleon. I like it. Ultra Empoleon asks, how do you make a villain players will hate?
Okay, so there are, in order to make a villain that players will hate, you have to do one of two things. You either have to take away something the players like, or attack it in some way. Or you have to really make the villain annoying to the players. So you can take away something that the players like in a couple of different ways. One way is if there's an NPC that the players really enjoy, somebody that they've interacted a bunch with, a friendly character that they've had a really good time with, have the bad guy kill that NPC. That seems harsh. It seems pretty brutal. I guess they don't have to kill the NPC. They could wound them or injure them or go after them or something along those lines. But if you really want to motivate the players towards something, you have to sort of twist the knife a little. And this is an idea that's been in the role-playing game world for quite a while, but the idea here is that every thing in the character's backstory or that they have created in the world are knives. They are opportunities for the game master to use to help create motivation for the player. And that is to sort of stab them in the back with it. And those knives are very, very useful. When a player says that their character's backstory is all about how they lost their parents and they grew up in their grandparents' house, and it was the one person who they had and they could rely on, and their grandparents trained them on the martial arts that they learned or whatever. The grandparents are the knife there. That is an opportunity to strike back at the
or the parents. I mean, it could be revealed this villain was the one who killed their parents.
Right.
Yeah,
which is also a great way. Right. I don't need to take anything away from you. I just need to demonstrate that the villain had already taken something from you.
Right.
Which can totally be it. You can have villains steal stuff from players. Players love their stuff. And if, whatever it is, they steal like a magic item or something from the players, or their sword that they love, or a trinket that was in their inventory, or even they steal something that the players don't have but we're going after. I've totally had the like thief character show up and like get there just before the players got there on a heist or on a treasure hunt, and steal the item before the players could get to it.
Like our last episode about the box, you open the treasure chest and it has a note that says the real friends,
right? Real
treasures, the friends you made along the way. Instead, it says ha ha ha, I got here first.
Got here first. Be faster next time. And
signed then signed the green rhino.
Yeah, signed the great fox.
Yeah.
And that can be a great way. You didn't even take anything from the players, but they are already upset about the idea that somebody took something that they were going after. All of those are good ways to create some motivation. The other side of it is to create a character that is mean to the players, and this is where you're doing something annoying. So you can have a bad guy that shows up, or a evil villain, I guess, that shows up and literally insults the players. Literally insults their characters, I should say.
Yeah, not the players.
Yeah, don't insult the players at your table. Insult the characters and call them names and say how much they are idiots and stuff like that. We had a plot line where the characters were imprisoned and forced to fight in an arena style gladiator combat, yeah. And in the imprisonment, they were in a prison that they really couldn't break out of. It was a magical prison that prevented them from casting spells.
Very Thor Ragnarok.
It is. And then the guy who was their sort of prison warden, who was pushing them into doing all of this, would just insult them. Would stand there and be like, I can't wait to see how you screw up this next one. And wow, you are great fighters. I'm really surprised, frankly, because you don't look like it. Really, really fun insults to do, and the whole time they can't attack this guy up until they figure out how to break out of the prison realm. And then all of a sudden now that guy is their target numero uno, because he spent the whole time basically insulting them. And he did take away things from them, right? Because he took their freedom, or he took their ability their autonomy, which is also an extra thing that I added in there, an extra layer. But the insulting was icing on that cake to really motivate the characters forward.
What about an evil villain who has nothing to do with the players, but is just bent on world domination?
You can do... Ultimately, hate it's an emotion. So I can make a plot line where this person is trying to destroy the world, or is trying to dominate the world, right? Those work fine. Lots of players are motivated by just doing good and being like, oh, cool, this is the plot line. That guy is going to destroy the world. I live in the world. That's real bad. That can be a great way to do it. But if you want the players to hate something, that's different. That is more than just my logical process going, well, if they destroy the world, I won't have anywhere to live anymore. It has to be something personal. Hate is about personal stuff. So even though you can have a villain show up and be like, yep, he's been killing people in the city for ages, and we can't stop him, and you need to go stop him. That doesn't mean anything, but it could if you really want to paint the idea of how he's killing people. You get into deep description of the like way in which he's doing those murders, or have him like killing people that really hits close to home. I have done some dark campaigns, and you have a villain who kills children. Like, now you're getting into a space where you're reaching into something really painful that the players can respond to, and really that they can latch onto to hate this villain.
Who was it that had the campaign with the vampires?
That was me. Yeah.
That was you? That was so dark.
Yeah, it was a really dark
campaign.
campaign.
Really dark.
Yeah, we had a campaign with vampires that were killing children.
Yeah, and oh man, I won't even get into it. It was dark.
I did not create that campaign. That was your rumors.
It was not my rumor.
Well, it was the players' rumors.
I think my rumor was that there was a mystical moonflower, and it only bloomed on a certain time, and it creates big medicine, and we should go after a flower. Who picked vampires killing children?
Well,
terrible.
Players voted. That being said, that is how you make the players hate. You have to make it personal for the characters, and in so doing, personal for the players.
I'm reminded of, we like to play this game. This is one of Adam's favorite games. It's called Sentinels of the Multiverse. And in that game, which is about, you're a team of superheroes. You each get to be your own superhero. There's a villain, and the villain always hits first. And I love that about this game, because then you're motivated. You're like, we're this team. Why should we go stop this bad guy? Oh, because they hit us first. So I could see that if you had a villain who was big, world dominating, whatever, and you said, as you said, make it personal, they hit first.
Yeah, part of their world domination plot is that they destroy the orphanage you grew up in, or they took away one of your magic items to help them with their world domination. Like, that's all strike first stuff, and now all of a sudden they've made enemies of you, and that allows you to start to finally feel motivated to do something about it.
And be heroes.
Yeah,
I like that. Okay, well, let's move on to use that spell.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Use that spell.
This is where I find a spell, and then we talk about it, and maybe different ways to use it, or just talk about it. And this is a spell I found called Earthbind.
Earthbind.
Earthbind. Like it's from page 17 from the EE Player's Companion.
Elemental Evil Player's Companion.
EE. So it's a transmutation spell. It is level 2, casting time 1 action, a range of 300 feet, and it has a verbal component. As I learned last time.
Now that you know the components.
I learned last time. So it says, and concentration up to 1 minute. It says, choose one creature you can see within range. Yellow strips of magical energy loop around the creature. The target must succeed on a strength saving throw, or its flying speed, if any, is reduced to 0 feet for the spell's duration. An airborne creature affected by the spell descends at 60 feet per round until it reaches the ground or the spell ends.
Okay, so it's basically a way to stop somebody from flying away.
Right. It's specific to flying creatures, although it does say its flying speed, if any. So I'm wondering, could you use this to stop anybody?
I mean, it would just stop their flying speed, according to this.
It would only stop flying, which seems kind of silly.
It's very specific.
You're binding someone to the earth from flying away. But if I were to like bind Joe Schmo over there, they'd be like, "Oh, cool, yellow bracelets," and walk away.
Yeah, it doesn't even seem like it prevents them from moving once they're on the ground. Yeah. So long as they're on the ground, I suppose it might prevent them from jumping.
Okay.
I could maybe interpret it that way. That, like, if they jump, they can't jump very well.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
I earthbind a flying creature. I get them to the ground. They're on the ground. They're laying down. Does that keep them from coming up from prone?
No, I don't think it does.
No.
Because it doesn't say that it knocks them... It doesn't even say it knocks them prone. I think it also says they descend at a rate of 60 feet per round, which for some flying creatures is their fly speed. So it's not like they're falling. They're just flying down rapidly. And so they land, and then they just walk around on the ground.
I would flavor text this spell a little bit to be, instead of an earthbind, I would call it wingbind. Okay. I'm not binding them to the earth.
But there are some
binding their wings.
There's some not flying creatures that don't
Ah,
have
la,
wings.
la, 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 la.
So if I use the
You know what
fly
I mean.
spell, then I'm
Well,
flying
I might
without
not be
wings.
on the Earth.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm not
that's
on the
fair.
Earth.
Earthbind's maybe not a great name for a place that's not necessarily the Earth.
Yeah, but maybe I'm in an elemental plane.
I guess this is
Earthbind.
Earth more like the determination of the ground.
Well, they didn't
Like
call
dirt.
it ground bind.
Dirt to bind.
Dirt to bind. We're on water.
Yeah. Water bind.
Water bind?
Yeah, I don't know. I can see the usefulness. So part of the power of this spell is that once you fail the saving throw, there's no further saving throw. So if I'm a flying creature and I fail the saving throw for the strength here, I'm now bound to the earth for the duration of the spell, which is concentration up to 1 minute, and I cannot fly away. So this is obviously really specific to knowing what kind of enemy you're going to be fighting. But in the event that you are fighting something that is flying and that could fly away, you're maybe chasing after something that's flying away, this is very useful. Because now all of a sudden they cannot fly away and there's no saving throw they can make to continue to fly away. Their only option is to get the spell to end, or drag it out for a minute or whatever.
Okay. Say I have...
Uh-oh.
Say I'm out of combat.
Okay.
What about things that don't necessarily have a quote-unquote fly speed? What if I want to earth bind, dirt bind, ground bind, water bind a hot air balloon?
I would count it.
Could I do it?
I would say it does have a fly speed. Although, it says choose one creature you can see within range.
So it would have to be a sentient air balloon,
Yes.
and then I could do it.
If the air balloon was, say, like a giant air-filled whale or something. A sky whale.
Okay, sky whale. All right.
Yeah.
That's better. An air-filled whale. My mind went straight to Harry Potter and his aunt who
Sure.
gets ballooned up. Ooh.
I was thinking, I don't know why I'm picturing like Dinotopia or something like that. Maybe it's like a pterodactyl that's carrying like a like a saddle. It's a sky bison.
Sky bison. Aww.
It's a sky bison. You could ground bind it to
Ground
the ground,
bind.
yeah, and prevent it from flying away.
Yeah,
But you could still walk.
I don't know if I would take this spell.
I would never use this spell.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever take it. I think that you're right. It would have to be very specific. I would have to like wake up and go, today I'm going to fight a flying dragon. You know what might be useful? A not flying dragon.
If I had a player who came to me and said, I like this spell, but I would like it a lot more if it also, say, prevented them from moving, then I would probably say, all right, I will allow for that. But they can continue to make, once they're on the ground, they can continue to make strength saving throws to try to break out of the binds.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it.
And that's how I would balance the spell.
Totally.
And then I would say you can use the spell on anybody, flying or not, and it would restrain them in place so they couldn't move around either, which has a whole host of other usefulness, right? Now I could use it on somebody who is not flying just to hold them where they are, which makes it feel a lot more useful, especially as a second level spell. Like blow a second level spell slot on like hold on to this spell to be able to do that. That
to
seems
keep
like
somebody from flying, but they can still walk around.
Yeah, this is one of my memorized spells at the beginning of the day. Maybe in the very rare circumstance that like I know I'm gonna go fight a wyvern. Let me prepare my spells to go fight this wyvern. But I've never really run campaigns that way, where let's start the day out and you know exactly what you're gonna go fight today, and let's prepare all of our spells and abilities to go fight it. It's pretty rare that
where's
happens.
the fun in that? Where's the excitement?
Yeah. So I would allow maybe an adjustment to the spell of somebody like a sorcerer or something where they said, look, I want to make this one of my spells, and I can't change spells all that often. But it's not a very useful spell in and of itself. But it fits with my character. Could we make this small change to it to make it a little bit more useful? Interestingly, old versions of D&D, like 2nd edition and 1st edition, had a ton of spells that were incredibly situational. Tons and tons of spells that were like not particularly good for combat or for anything except for the rare situations where they would come up. And I always thought that was very interesting and far more fun to play with. But based on the concept that let's just give you so many spells. You just have so many spells that you can work with. You don't really have to worry that much. Wizards in second edition still had to do the same thing, but filling up your spell book, because there were so many spells in the game, filling up your spell book was just a big part of the game. And so you would just collect spells, and then at the beginning of the day you might memorize your very specific spell that makes berries that counteract a specific kind of poison or something like that, just for the fun of it, or because that's might come up today.
Can you imagine if me as this character, I did not talk to my GM, but I put a little check mark next to counteractive berry poison.
Yeah.
And the GM decides that day to poison us, I'd be like, oh,
I've got it.
I did it.
Yeah. That's the real success moment as a wizard. So I do like. I'm not upset in any way that the spell exists in the game. Although I will say that it doesn't seem very versatile.
No, but I love the visuals of it. Yellow strips of magical energy loop around the creature. That's cool.
Yeah, it is a cool.
That's a neat. Like, I'm imagining it spinning and then constricting. And this is where I would call it wing bind, because it would go around the wings.
But then it wouldn't work on somebody who's flying via magic.
Well, then it would go around their torso.
Work on sky bisons.
Go around their torso. That would be his tail, because clearly he uses his tail.
Sure.
Whatever part of their bodies they use for the flying, their butts, I don't know, looped magical energy. It's really cool. But I would say this spell as it is gets a thumbs maybe for me.
Yeah.
But if you modify it to actually constrict someone on the ground as well, with the extra spell checks, with extra strength checks, then it's a thumbs up.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's a little too specific.
Yeah. To be really, really useful. Well, I think that's our show.
That's
yeah.
it.
Hey,
so
thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Eventually, when we post
you stuck
these.
around. You made it to the end. That's amazing.
Thank you. So where to contact us? You can go to our website, which is nextsessionpodcast.com. At the bottom, you can scroll down and submit your own question. We would really, really love it if you submitted a question.
It would make our day. It would be huge.
And it would make our lives a little easier, because then I don't have to find a question. I can just use your question, and we would say your username, and you could come up with whatever username you want, really.
Yeah. Please make it appropriate.
Oh, yes, that would be nice.
But yes, submit a question. We would love to read your question on air and answer your question, and maybe provide you with a little bit of help. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Session. And that is also a place where you can submit questions if you would like to do so. Or if you want to hear about a particular spell or a particular piece of GM advice or any of the other segments, feel free to do so. As well as, please share about our podcast on Facebook and Twitter. It's helpful for getting more people
That's a big
hearing
thing.
about it.
You always hear about people begging for star ratings, and they always go 5-star, 5-star.
We want 5 stars. Give us 5 stars.
You could do that if you wanted.
You could do that.
I'm not going to say no.
I'm not going to beg.
No.
But I wouldn't turn it down. So please contact us. Please send us your questions. Please send us your comments and feedback. We want to hear all of it. So I'm Adam Johns.
And I'm Melissa Johns.
So tune in next time, and we will help you prep for your next session.